but I think it's a byproduct rather, of the Democratic Party and the fact that they don't seem to have any mission, any vision, any kind of leadership. They seem rudderless, to say the least. And now it's at a point where they're getting mocked religiously. It's an indictment against a Democratic Party that doesn't have leadership and doesn't have a vision. And it's sad.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So in this clip, we're going to watch Stephen A. Smith, who's going to express that he believes that he is a legitimate candidate to be the next president of the United States. Yeah, this is how bad the Democrats are doing. Let's get into the video.
That was Stephen A. Smith, host of ESPN's First Take. He's one of the most, maybe the most listened to sports commentator in America. Lately, he's been talking a lot about politics. And this week, he opened the door to a possible run for president in 2028. So joining me now, Stephen A. Smith. Thank you very much for being here on This Week. So
happy to be here.
We'll get to your possible political future in a second. But you said when Trump got elected, we should give him a chance. How's it going? I mean, what's your take on where Trump is now at day 80 plus?
Well, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I'm not surprised. I mean, this whole tariff war situation is utterly ridiculous. I mean, my attitude is that he should have immediately targeted China and not every nation on the planet, for crying out loud, just throwing tariffs at everybody. Ultimately, he dialed that back, as we saw over the last few days, and folks on the right are up in arms. Basically, I should say, I mean, positively, essentially saying that that was the plan all along. There doesn't appear to be a plan. Let's be very, very clear about that. It seems to be a bit very haphazard, and just thrown against the wall to see what will stick. But in the end, what you have to applaud them for is for trying something. We're spending about $2 trillion more, than we're raking in. We're losing our credit rating. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the United States of America, financially, economically, that has been, tinkering towards disaster, and somebody had to do something. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I can understand the need for tariffs, as Senator Elizabeth Warren had articulated. But in the end, what it comes down to is that it does seem to be a bit haphazard right now. And it seemed geared towards large businesses, when we all know small businesses is what makes this country thrive. And I don't see him targeting that nearly enough, but we shall see.
I mean, this is one thing he's been consistent on forever. He's been saying America gets ripped off in trade. He's been an advocate of tariffs, even before he was an advocate of, stopping immigration. What about this idea that we can bring back American manufacturing through tariffs? I mean, is that realistic? Is it plausible?
Well, listen, there are better minds than me that can answer that question. I can't see that happening. I think they've said that we've lost over 5 million manufacturing jobs over the last 20 plus years or so. I don't know if that's coming back, particularly with the age of AI, ChatGPT, and other things coming into the forefront. I just can't see that happening. But again, if that's the song that you want to sing to the American public, to the constituency out there that you think is going to vote for you, he seems very convincing in letting people know what he feels and getting them to see his way of thinking. But I think it's a byproduct rather, of the Democratic Party and the fact that they don't seem to have any mission, any vision, any kind of leadership. They seem rudderless, to say the least. And now it's at a point where they're getting mocked religiously. And so as a result of that, you're going to look at him, and regardless of the troubles that you think he might bring forth, unless things become disastrous economically, the fact of the matter is the American people have already said during the last election, he's a bit more normal or closer to normal than the Democratic Party. And that's where the real problem lies. It's not it might be a two-party system, but there's only one party running this country right now, because the Democrats have no muscle whatsoever.
Well, let me ask you about the Democrats. So Elizabeth Warren talked about getting Congress to stop him. I mean, that's not really going to go anywhere. You got the House is controlled by the Republicans. So is the Senate. He's not going to sign anything into law. And then we had Gretchen Whitmer, who's talked about as a possible candidate for president. She's tried to engage Trump. She was in the Oval Office. I'm sure you saw this. I mean, maybe we can bring up the picture. At one point, she seemed like she was trying to hide behind her own binder as Trump was praising her. What did you make of Whitmer trying to engage Trump?
Well, listen, she's the governor of Michigan. She has no choice but to do that. And anybody that thinks otherwise is just being foolish and immature and childish. The fact is that she's the governor of a state in the United States of America. You need to do business with the federal government. He's the president of the United States. You don't get to circumvent him. So as a result, you have to be an adult in the room and be prepared to do business. And anybody that would encourage her to do otherwise is just being utterly ridiculous. I was watching Bill Maher in real time. I'm sorry.
But let me ask you, though. She was there while he was signing these executive orders, basically asking his Justice Department to investigate, people that had criticized him. Should she have used that opportunity she's there to actually speak up on that?
Probably so. I mean, again, but the real issue is that whatever it takes to get business done is what we need to be focused on. Whatever her business is with that particular issue or her particular state, I understand that. The bigger picture here is that Elizabeth Warren was just on with you. You're going to have a multitude of Democratic representatives on with you. They talk and they talk and they talk, but what can they do? They position themselves to do absolutely nothing. I didn't hear anything about tariffs from the Democrats before the election. Trump had been preaching about this for the longest time. The way people decry his strategy, he's been bloviating about that. They said nothing about it. Instead, they talked about everything from woke culture to cancer culture to abortion rights and all of this other stuff. But that wasn't going to win the election. And that's what we have to look at. What is it going to take to get the job done? That's why somebody who's a sports analyst, for crying out loud, is in the daggone polls. It's not somebody big up in me. It's an indictment against a Democratic Party that doesn't have leadership and doesn't have a vision. And it's sad.
I saw you mentioned Bill Maher. I saw Steve Bannon was on with Bill Maher, and he was asked what Democrats he worries about. And the only name he mentioned as a Democrat he'd be worried about. So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy
good one, too.
With my day job. I'm very happy with my boss. This is a pretty damn good one. Just right. It's a pretty damn good contract. I couldn't be happier. But here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. At least show the respect to the people who believe in you, who respect you, who believe that you can make a difference in this country, to leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. And that's what I've decided to do. But again, whether it's Governor Westmore, who I know, or Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, who I know, Andrew Cuomo, who I had the pleasure of interviewing, who's trying to get back in things and be the next mayor of New York, etc. I see a lot of people that obviously and clearly are more qualified than me. But in the same breath, when you think about what Trump is getting away with, when you think about what you brought up about Steve Bannon, who's trying to be slick because he's looking at a non-political individual like myself, looking at me as a populist. But you better be careful what you ask for, because some of the stuff that Trump and the right has been trying to get away with, like circumventing the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, talking about how there could be a third term. Excuse me, be careful what you wish for, because if any GOP member, if any Republican supports that, I don't want to hear a word out of their mouth ever again about the following the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution. That's what they've been living off for years. And then you're talking about circumventing the 22nd Amendment, and you think that's cool? No way. That's not something that we should stand for. So I would hope somebody else would step up that's more qualified than me. But if it has to come down to me, it is something I would consider. Yes, I would, because I don't mind the thought of tussling with these folks at all, on the left or the right. All of them disgust me, to be quite honest with you.
So if both parties, right, discussed you or whatever you said, then why are you running as a Democrat? That's the weird part about this, right? Why does this guy feel like he has to clean up and save the Democrats? It almost feels like he owes them something, right? That he owes them something, that he has to go back and pay his dues to the Democrats for some reason. I don't know. It's just a weird dynamic that Stephen A. Smith has with the Democratic Party, in my opinion. He always claims that he's independent, but this right here, to me, proves that he's a Democrat. Because if you're running or thinking about running for president, why are you running as a Democrat? Why not run as an independent? You said you were an independent. So why would you need to go back and clean up or fix the Democrats? Why not just run as an independent and present your policies, right? Because this is the crazy idea. I don't know if he knows what he's getting himself into or not, but this is what I believe as a third party observer, right? Whoever's putting this in the back of this guy's head is actually pretty smart, right? Because what they can do with Stephen A. Smith is use him as a puppet, because like you've seen in the beginning of this video, he claims that he's ignorant in most of the issues, right? As far as solutions go. So what the Democrats can do is use his face and his whoever, his fame and his identity as a black man and all of that, and put him as a puppet, because he can easily be swayed and told what to do and what to say and how to say it, because he technically can't come up with his own ideas, right? That's what he claimed. So whoever is putting them up to this, coming from the Democrats, is pretty smart, because some silly Democrats will end up voting for Stephen A. because he's not part of the status quo as far as the Democrats go. But as far as him running as a Democrat is absolutely comical and silly to me, because once again, that just proves, Stephen A., that you've always been a Democrat, because you're literally proving to us and showing to us that you feel like you have some type of sense of duty to have to go back and fix this party that you're not a part of, right? It doesn't make any sense. You've always voted for them, right? We've known that, but you've always said that you're independent. So if you're thinking about running for office, why not just run for, as a Republican, as an independent? But since you are a Democrat, right, an undercover Democrat, you feel like you owe them something, so you have to go back and help revitalize them, right? That's what you're doing. This is a dying party, but you feel like you have to bring them back to life. Why? If you're not a Democrat, why? Let them die. They had bad issues. They had bad policies. You started to talk trash about them as soon as Kamala Harris lost. But now, all of a sudden, you see how bad they are, and they're literally walking to the graves, and now you have to fix them and bring them back to life. It's weird. It's weird to me. That's all I'm going to say. It's weird. It's very suspect, Stephen A. You're exposing yourself as a Democrat. That's what you always been. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Let's talk about this video in the comment section. Hit the like button down below. And of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.